So today I spoke with Taylor about the film, his time in the United Kingdom shooting it, and what it was like stepping into a role for a project that already has this massive fan base. So you have a lot to live up to because, like I said before, the book was huge. So go on and grab a snack because I'll be right back with Taylor Zakhar Perez. So the book was insanely huge. What did you think when the film came your way?
I hadn't heard of the book or read the book before the audition came. I think a friend of mine auditioned or was meeting for casting. I don't know, something in behind the scenes stuff. And he sent it to me and he's like, "Hey, have you got this audition yet?" And I said, "No, I don't know what that is." He's like, "Here's the book. I think they're going to start casting it or something." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I read it and, it was an incredible book. And then I really didn't have any idea that it was so popular until I started telling people that I might be going to England for a project, and everybody was freaking out. Even Amita, my publicist, was like, "Oh my God, I read that during COVID. It's an amazing book. Oh my God." And legit everyone that I mentioned it to. I had no idea. I thought it was just like a COVID book,
Yeah.
I really didn't know the magnitude of it. And the more and more I live my life, the more I understand how much it means to people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it must put because the book was massive during COVID, it must put kind of but not so much of a pressure, but what do you think it is about the story that people responded to so much?
No, it does put a pressure on. That was all I thought about the entire summer. Because as you know, I'm a Harry Potter fan. And so I would go to those midnight book releases with my siblings and would read the book in the car on the way home and be done by morning. And I would just crave to see when the film adaptation would come out. And I remember when The Sorcerer's Stone came out and Peeves the Poltergeist was not included in the film, and it just wrecked me because I thought Peeves was the best. It was such a funny character. How could they do this? And I remember how strongly I felt as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old about this. And so, taking some things from my past and just going, I know there's going to be people everywhere who read this book that are going to expect a great adaptation. And it's really up to me because, I feel like it really is Alex's film, his journey. And I felt like it was up to me to make it happen. And so, I mean, I was very sweet of Matthew. I read in an interview the other day, he said that I cannonballed into this character, which was so true. The entire summer, it was like no rest. Just it was study the entire summer, watching old films, watching West Wing, reading books, and just trying to get into this kid's head. So I could bring Alex accurately and specifically to the screen.
Definitely. Well, I mean, you mentioned two things that are two of my favorites, Harry Potter and the West Wing. And right. When you were in the UK, did you go to the Harry Potter studio?
I did.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
The dragon when you walk in.
Yes.
Gosh, I had the chills right now. Yes, it was incredible. I went, actually text my producer because, it's summer, it's packed.
Yeah.
And my producer used to work at Warner Brothers. And I was like, "Hey, going out on a limb here. Do you still know anybody there?"
Yeah. And
I think Berlanti Schechter is still at Warner Brothers office anyway. And so she made a call and my friend and I were able to go. And it was magical. It was magical stepping into that world that, we grew up in. Those 7 books were life-changing for me and really just sparked my creativity and what was possible to do in TV and film. And it starts with his cupboard under the stairs, and you're just like,
yeah,
oh, and build its way into Gringotts.
It's great.
Yes, I went.
It's a great. I know. Every time I go, I have to go to the studio. It's.
Oh, you've gone multiple times.
I mean, I go there a lot. So yes, it's there's definitely there's been multiple visits. Yes. So when you're preparing for something like this, because this is kind of like a YA driven story, but there is also a very I mean, it's a UK based sort of film, but like there is a very American element to it. And you said you watched The West Wing, which is one of my favorite shows. What other things did you watch to sort of prepare for this? I mean, it's a romantic comedy, but yeah, how do you get into the mindset for a film like this?
Yeah, good question. Lots of discussions with Matthew. We had great rehearsals in the beginning, which I was so grateful for. I mean, honestly, I only had a week of rehearsals, and then I got COVID. So then I was doing them from my screen, which sucked, but it was nice to get, I mean, I'm glad that I was able to kind of get it out of the way in a way, so that I was good for the summer and then didn't have to stop production. But then Nick got it in July, and then we had to stop production for a week. So, it was fun.
Yeah.
Every night I think I came home and watched like 3 episodes of The West Wing. I really felt that it kind of is that Sorkin pace and that Sam Seaborn. I think Alex really wants to be Sam Seaborn, and he's living his best life, his West Wing life, legitimately in the West Wing. Like everything he's ever dreamed of is now happening, and he thinks he's a character on that Sorkin show.
Yeah.
And so that's how I was kind of seeing it as I kept watching The West Wing. And, I think what I just kept learning, like these people are so smart. These people that are on The West Wing, my gosh, Allison Janney. I just listened to his podcast on WTF with Mark Maron. What is his name?
Rob Lowe?
No, whose assistant is Donna? Donna.
Oh, yeah. What's his name? Oh, I know him.
Bradley Whitford,
yes.
Bradley Whitford. These people are, they're not thinking about what they're saying. Like they're, 5 paragraphs ahead in their mind already of what they want to say. They're just so smart and smooth, and they're just machines. And so I just had to get myself in that feeling of like, this kid is a Georgetown law school student. He's incredibly smart. There is no ums. It's just like constant monologue. Just talk. And he was just such a complex character. So that's how I kind of got into the Sorkin side of things. And then started watching, there's a film called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah, great film.
And I feel like Alex has that soul, like that mind. He really wants to make a difference, and people keep telling him no. And, when Alex, it's so funny, like referring to him as Alex and it's me. And then it's like thinking of all the characters' names as I'm trying to say this. When Alex is sent to Texas, finally his mom believes in his memo. It's kind of like when Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but he's finding out that it's not that easy. He can't just give Zara the memo and her enact it. It's really hard. There's lots of red tape you have to get through, and there's just ways of doing things. And it's such a sad film, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, because he thinks he can make all these changes, and in the end, like they're all just fighting against him. So that was another film I watched. Bringing Up Baby for the comedy, that comedic timing, because I just think Cary Grant and
Katharine Hepburn
are incredible, and their timing is impeccable, and the physical comedy. And I think that was another thing, like the physical comedy I really looked for in Bringing Up Baby, because I kept being surprised every time Cary Grant would have a fun, big comedic moment. Like when he falls on his hat, they're just, those actors of that time had such a different skill set of the actors of today. It was kind of like marrying the theater with film, it's like vaudeville, theater, film, kind of into one, and they just did such a wonderful job. So the long way to answer your question is honestly by that watching those films, but also reading biographies like a Lyndon B. Johnson biography, and the stuff that Alex would have on his bedside table, and understanding and I was also very lucky to be a part of a show called Embeds that Mike DeLuca produced. And so understanding what it is like to be on the campaign trail, I got to experience that in Iowa for a month while we shot this project. So lots of things went into it. It was just constant knowledge, constant educating. And I'm also very lucky because Matthew wrote on the newsroom. And so he does have Sorkin in him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sorkin is just incredible, and if you can ever get any touch of Sorkin, it's going to be good.
Where was I? I went to the theater here to see Jeff.
Oh, in the Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so the UK is also such a huge part of it. UK culture, UK. I mean, what do you think it is about, especially in the story, the UK element and the UK culture that the American side of it is so fascinated by? Like, we aren't that far detached from them, but yet they are literally speaking a foreign language to us in a lot of ways.
Right? I mean, it's funny when we go, Nick and I will always joke, he'll say stuff and I'm like, dude, can you just speak English? And he gets so mad because there are certain things that we just like would never say, but there's stuff in the States that we say that they're like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You crazy American. Look, I grew up with the royals and the news. I mean, obviously they're still here. I never really subscribed to it as an American. I have friends that are obsessed with the royals and know everything about them. And I kind of just sit on the sideline and I'm like, just shrug my shoulders. I think it's kind of like a fantasy land, right? We grow up, it's almost like a Disney prince and princess story that we watch from afar. That's real life. Yeah. And I think that's probably why it's interesting. It's like the olden days that it's still happening. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It just feels like a fantasy. Yeah. And the drama, and then the people that are royal by blood, and they have to marry somebody from another country who's also royal. It sounds like you're watching Bridgerton or something.
Yeah. How is that a part of the film? You know, is that vibe a part of the film? That's sort of like the curiosity of the American for the UK sensibilities?
That's a good question. You saw the movie, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in the beginning when my co-star and Rachel Hilson and I are on our way to the royal wedding, Alex just is nervous because obviously his first interaction with Prince Henry was not great. And she wants to go to this wedding. Like, it is the royal wedding. This is what everybody talks about. Of course we're going. And he has no interest in it. So I think she brings the fascination to it. And I mean, probably the importance of Uma's character as the president, knowing that she has to have a good relationship with the king and queen and prime minister of the UK. I feel like those are the only two ways. But then when they come together, as the first son of the first female president of the United States, it also happens to be half Latin, with the first Prince of England, I think that's when it becomes even more interesting, because now it's like two powerhouses of the world coming together. And like, what does that mean?
Yeah, definitely.